Hi, my name is Eleftherios. I am the co-founder of Radicle. Radicle is the only privacy-preserving, censorship-resistant network for code collaboration. As of 2022, I'm also working on another project called Drips, which is a platform for funding public goods.
Hi, Eleftherios.
Hi.
Thanks for
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So, for the context, we are in Berlin.
Yes.
Dappcon, talking to people. You already had your speech today, right?
Yeah, earlier today. Yeah, I spoke about Radicle,
Okay.
about its security properties. I had a marketing title. 5 things you didn't know but should. That was the vibe. But yeah, it was a nice experience overall.
I believe that. But we'll start, we will go freestyle, but
Sure.
we'll start with your intro for people who don't know you. Just a few minutes, shortly. How did you end up
In the
space where you are at, like in the project that you are doing, like a bit of your background, like professional,
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Okay, so my name is Eleftherios. I'm originally from Greece. People call me Ele. Feel free to use Ele, simpler. So I have a background in mathematics and statistical inference. Been interested in technology for my whole life. Already as a teenager, I was messing with computers and stuff. And then, long story short, I found myself in Berlin in 2011, where I joined a small startup at the time called SoundCloud. I was an early employee there. And the reason why I joined them was because I'm a musician as well. Music is a big passion of mine, the arts. And, I was very interested at new technologies that were promising disruption of, the exploiting music industry, which I knew, quite well as a musician. And, if you can go back in time, this was around 2008, 2011, this type of period was really the beginning of Web 2.0. And at the time, it was these companies that were making the promise of disintermediation, right? So I joined with them, stayed with them for almost 7 years, became quite senior there. I was running all of their machine learning, analytics, data engineering teams. And then around 2015, I started to become a bit cynical about this, new model. I basically realized that this new intermediaries, they were maybe a little bit more well-intentioned than the previous wave of intermediaries, but this whole model wasn't it, simply because incentives did not align. And then I started looking into cryptocurrency things. I had heard already about Bitcoin in 2011 from a good friend of mine in Greece, drunk at a party. And then, he was like, oh, you have to check out this thing. And I was like, I'm not interested in money. I'm not interested in finance. This isn't my thing. Sorry. I'm not going to, engage with that. And then funny story, in 2015, when Ethereum was happening, when they were Vitalik was really starting to push that vision, they were spending a lot of time in Berlin. So through some of those circles, I actually heard about that. We looked at it with SoundCloud already because, hey, interesting technology. What about, intellectual property? And then we quickly decided that this thing wasn't yet usable for the scale of SoundCloud. SoundCloud at the time had 200 million active users type of thing, large, massive, massive audience. We realized that hey, this thing isn't ready for more. But I got, hooked. I was like, okay, interesting, some really interesting ideas here. And then around 2016, I started to be very bored and not interested and not aligned with where that industry was going. So I started going deeper and deeper and deeper with crypto networks. And then towards the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I co-founded a project called Radicle, which is a decentralized network for code collaboration. In fact, it's the only privacy-preserving network for code collaboration, and we can talk about that. And and then basically started pursuing that vision. So that's one aspect of the things I do. I'm still very active with Radicle. And then in 2022, our ecosystem also released a new product for public goods funding that's called DRIPS, which is quite distinct. Its model is very different than any other public goods funding platform out there. I'm sure we can zoom in on that if you're interested in that. But I mean, fundamentally, the things I'm after is I've been pursuing platforms and ways for communities to collaborate without intermediaries. And that has been, a big passion of mine. How do you align incentives between, users, node operators, and developers, right? How do you do this on the one side? And then on the other side, public goods funding is it is important for me simply because having experienced this myself as a developer, I know that a lot of what makes the internet such a magic place is open source software. Many of these projects actually struggle to define themselves in traditional market terms. And I think as an intellectual challenge and a real challenge, it's really impactful work. These have been the two things that I'm after.
It's both of them are super cool, and I like them personally a lot.
Appreciate.
So maybe for once again quick take on Radicle first, how it emerged, why, and maybe what challenges you had to overcome, because you are competing with a really serious guys like Microsoft. That's kind of a David Goliath thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which probably is not that easy, right?
No, it's absolutely not that easy. So why Radicle? Why is this exciting? So when we started to think about the state of the internet, and we started looking into crypto networks specifically, one of the main observations we had was that this is technology that is really disruptive. It has the potential to challenge really powerful actors, not just powerful companies, but more fundamentally state structures. And our thinking was that, hey, if this whole thing play out, if all of these people that are stating that they want to go and challenge those structures, if they are effective at doing that, then the code layer will be the new frontier. This is where many of those things will actually manifest. So in short, we just realized that a truly sovereign infrastructure for code will be needed. It was also around the time that a lot of people relatively early within the cryptocurrency space had the foresight that there is an institutional collapse, that basically trust in institutions is decreasing, and with a geopolitical landscape that already was getting more and more complicated. Of course, nothing like today, different story. We just realized that this whole this whole idea of openness on open source will be challenged. It's only a matter of time. And the home of open source, which already in 2018 was GitHub, won't cut it. In fact, it will be the new place where you censor. It will be the new place where potentially anonymous contributions won't be allowed. So we started to speculate that this thing we love actually will be fragmented and will be up for grabs. So we decided to build an alternative. And that's where Radicle came to be. We started working on those things in 2018, and it took us a long time. So with regards to challenges, we already shipped an alpha in 2019 based on IPFS. It got a lot of attention, which was great for us, but we also realized that this isn't scaling the technology. The technologies we were using were not the best fit for that solution. In 2020, we shipped a beta based on a custom, Radicle protocol that we developed. That one actually went viral, was #1 in Hacker News. We had all sorts of large DeFi projects using it and trying it out. And then as it was scaling, actually, we faced a lot of problems. We had, in fact, a lot of networking problems where the network will get flooded with messages. And then, if you were running a node, like, your node will actually start consuming a lot of your resources. So, this was our beta. And then this was a really difficult moment for all of us, simply because we had something that it seemed like, already like people are very, very excited to use, but unfortunately it wasn't scaling. And then, we took a step back, tried to use all of our learnings. And then finally in September 2024, after 6 years of development, we actually shipped Radicle 1.0. Right now we are already at 1.2, has been working great. There's a really, really large community of non-paid developers. Like there's a team, that is paid to work on that, but there are also like, all sorts of people around the world that they are contributing their free labor effectively in making this thing a better tool, and it's growing. Today there are more than 1,000 nodes on a weekly basis active. There are more than 4,000 projects hosted on Radicle. So it's, it's not what they like to call in Silicon Valley a hockey stick, but it's actually growing. It's up and to the right, and it feels healthy, which is something that I'm really, really happy about. But it's been hard, and it's also been very hard, as you said, competing against a corporation that has it's $1 trillion entity, and then on the other side, competing with a product that is a really good product and also has network effects. So lots of learnings on how to do that. But yeah, this hasn't been an easy journey, but it has been a really rewarding journey because one of the things I try to think with regards to my work is that there are all of those ideas out there that there might be great ideas if you're looking for an idea that can be impactful, but they're not distinct enough. Meaning that, like there's something that if you don't do this, someone else probably will. And with Radicle, I feel that like, this is an idea that not many people were actually willing to pursue because of the complexity of the operation. And we did, and it's something that actually, because of its distinct positioning and impact to the world, is something that is really rewarding, with all the challenges that we face with regards to bringing it to market.
Okay, let's go into the state of crypto now and like very broken incentives.
Salty takes.
So I'm really happy that there is drips, and I want you to explain like how it works and why do you make it, and why it's so important that it exists. For people who, once again, who are not familiar with that.
Okay, how drips came to be. From the beginning, we had two hypotheses. One is that new sovereign infrastructure for code that is more resilient to geopolitical tensions and, illegitimate or sketchy corporations is needed. And then the other thing that we saw, which wasn't a problem, it was more of an opportunity around the problem, is that we thought that all of this new value creation that was happening within the cryptocurrency space and all of this financial infrastructure that was being created, we thought that there is an opportunity to do something novel and try to create new value flows for open source projects. Why do we care about open source projects? Simply because we understand that there are thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands or even millions of projects that are extremely impactful, but they're really struggling to define themselves in the traditional market terms. Go sell a product, go sell a service. And we think that this is extremely important for humanity, with something that, we benefited massively ourselves. So you can think of this as a selfish endeavor. You can think of this as an altruist endeavor. I don't think that it matters. You just need to be honest with yourself. Do you value this thing? 100% yes. So we started to experiment with, new models. And the one thing that we were always fixated about is this idea of the interconnectedness of open source. Like there's something really powerful to open source. When you start a new project, most of the times what you do is you import someone else's work. And, the world is like this. Everything, we do
you
it
don't
like
start
this.
from scratch, right?
Yeah, no, totally. You never start from scratch, right? Like, and you can think of this, the language we use now, we didn't invent it. It was given to us by someone else. Like you get sick, you go to someone else to fix you, right? So, but I think what's so special about code is that you're doing this explicitly. Like, every time you're about to create a new project, you say, I want to import this person's work into my work and, just build on it. So we always thought that there's something really powerful in this relationship, in this interdependence, as your t-shirt says. So in this interdependence, we think that it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful symbol of, human collaboration and what is possible, when humans can freely collaborate with each other anywhere in the world. So we started with an experiment of what if we could use the same structure, the same idea that every piece of code out there usually depends on another piece of code, and what if we could use actually these relationships to actually flow money through them. And this is where Drips started. So originally Drips was just a really simple crowdfunding platform where the way it works is that when you go to the Drips app, then you're about to claim your profile for your open source projects. And when you do so, you actually asked to specify if you receive any capital up front, if you would like to redistribute a portion of that on a voluntary basis. You choose that and you can change that at any point in time. But if you would like to do this with any of the projects that make your work possible. And we didn't know if this thing will stick, but we started noticing that a lot of, influential developers actually start to do that. And, there's a funny story that like early on, a lot of projects that started to use Drips, they were doing the 60-40 allocation. So 60% of whatever, which is massitive,
That's a
right?
lot. That's a lot. I wouldn't expect that.
No, absolutely. Me neither. So, and, we didn't have a default. And I remember like we were actually onboarding Rikmu, who's one of the maintainers behind Ethers.js. And, we showed him the thing. He was like, oh, this is really, really cool. He was like, but defaults are very important. Have you guys thought about you recommending a percentage to be shared with dependents? We were like, no. And then he was like, okay. And then, he was the first person that actually like said like, what, I want to keep 60% and give 40 to my dependencies. He specified his dependencies. He started receiving capital from some of his funders. And then we started noticing that a lot of people were copying him. They were looking at him, oh, look, Rikmu is successful. Whatever he does, we can do the same. So early on, a lot of people basically started to have the 60-40. Today, this varies. There are a lot of projects that do share something. There are many projects that don't share. Majority still shares something with their dependencies. But that was the original idea. Can we actually break this idea that there's a funder and then there's a recipient? Every other platform out there try to make you feel that this relationship works in isolation from the world. And our thinking was that we actually want to put this together and see what people will do with it. And we started there, we started going around and basically recommending to funders to play that game. And early on, we managed to convince a number of communities to do that. One of the early ones was Octant, actually. So we worked with Octant. They funded 4 of their core dependencies. And simply by playing that game, I think we had 40 projects actually receive capital, from this first 4 starting points from Octant. And then, then we had more projects doing this. We started working with ENS. And then over time, what we started doing is we started adding things around the protocol. So there's a truly, decentralized protocol that enables type of redistribution logic and programming of funding that comes in. But recently, we also have started to add models that do work for funders at the top, because you always need capital to come in from somewhere, right? And luckily, within crypto, there is appetite for different protocols to distribute back to public goods. Recently, for instance, we announced that you can run a whole RetroPGF round within Drips. You can use the Drips toolkit, operate your RetroPGF round in a really, really nice UI, And when capital hits the projects, you still get this amplification logic, the redistribution logic. So even if you have 100 projects that are to be rewarded, then maybe, another 100 will receive capital because of that. So we started doing more and more of those things. And since 2022, we have allocated around $5 million, to open source with this tooling. We've been working with the Ethereum Foundation, with Protocol Labs, ENS, Scroll, all sorts of interesting experiments.
Web3 Privacy Now.
Web3 Privacy Now, of course, absolutely. Thank you for calling it out. Web3 Privacy Now, lots of interesting organizations doing different things. And maybe we can zoom in 1-2 novel experiments in there. But this is how Drips came to be.
That's super cool take. We have not much time left. We have 5-10 minutes, so just for 2 questions. I mean, I already want to do another interview with you, but probably at another conference.
Sure.
But a few quick takes. So first one on privacy. So I wanted to hear your opinion on privacy in general and state of privacy, and why it's important or not. I don't know.
I mean, privacy is a fundamental condition for human flourishing, in my opinion. In the why, I think the most honest way for me to explain this is that, you connecting with other human beings goes through this process of you selectively revealing yourself. Having privacy allows me to be authentic with myself, being honest with myself, and actually slowly, connecting with human beings while I still feel under control, in some way. So I think this is fundamental, there's this fundamental notion of privacy on the way we are, without thinking about more practical applications of privacy. But that's the one that I, always, try to outline first. And then second, I guess, with the work that we do with Radicle, why privacy is important. Well, as many open source projects actually challenge powers, what's happening effectively, you see developers being attacked, you're seeing developers being discriminated simply because of where they live, the color of their skin. So we built Radicle with privacy in mind, simply because we want to protect connectedness again, protect openness again. It's a fundamental condition for that for us. That's
great take. Okay, and the last question will be in the futuristic. So imagine we are 30 years from now. And we have this internet that you would like to see, the ideal one, which is self-sovereign, distributed, with lots of public goods, private, whatever you imagine that. And how would it look like, and how would life look like?
It's a hard one. And I heard you asking this question before, right?
And I was always this question everyone, because
I know. It's an impactful.
Because we talk a lot about privacy, we talk a lot about the importance of public goods, but it's really hard to imagine. Draw the line. Okay, we implement everything, and then how's the life would be, because then it's easier and more practical to see the difference between what we have now and how it could be.
Well, I think I will give you my answer. It might feel a bit high level, but I'll tell you, my honest answer is, if we succeed, or my hope, if we succeed in these things that we're doing, the outcome is more human flourishing. Humans living more fulfilled lives. Okay, and if you contrast that with where the internet stands today, I look around me and I see addicted zombies everywhere. I see this in myself again. I see myself getting lost in technology. I can feel that someone is actually exploiting my human nature, via incentives and via, the data that I'm producing for someone else's flourishing, for someone else's advantage. So if we are successful in what we're attempting, I think we're going to see more fulfilled human beings, more impactful connections, more fulfilled lives, effectively, for all of us. And I have no idea how does that look like. If you had told me 5 years, maybe it would have been easier to speculate on, the state of the world. But 30 years, I hope that we see humans that actually are more connected with themselves, with their own interests, and they're more aware, more more empathy for what's happening around them somehow. That would be
sounds beautiful. And one last thing for the students of Web3 Privacy Academy, just a piece of culture that you would recommend: book, film, podcast, playlist, whatever, that is kind of expanding your perspective on world in general.
That's a tricky one. Can I recommend music?
Of course.
Yeah, you should check out Karina Barbieri, Italian composer. I think her first album, I think it's called Patterns of Consciousness. It has been a really powerful work towards me. It's a minimalist electronic piece, but it's quite special. It has enriched my life, so I hope it will enrich yours.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you for this recommendation, and thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Ciao. Bella ciao.